I sat down with the Senate's top Democrat, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and we started by discussing the future of Obamacare.
Our Democrats are totally united, and what's interesting, the places that would feel the loss, the repeal of ACA the most, are sort of rural, red state areas. So when our senators from the redder states that Trump carried by 10 or 15 points go home, they're getting huge support for not repealing.
But you do say that fixing Obamacare is necessary.
Yeah.
And do you disagree that it would implode if it is just let to go?
CBO, just in their report, and CBO to us is very reliable. The head of CBO, as you know, was recommended #1 by Tom Price, now the Secretary of HHS chosen by Donald Trump. He said it's not going to collapse. Look, our view has been very simple. Once President Trump and Speaker Ryan, Leader McConnell say they're no longer going to repeal, of course we want to make ACA better, and we'll work with them to improve it. But if you repeal it, you can't do it. You have nothing. And they're having a great deal of trouble, quote, replacing it.
Right, but the markets for Obamacare show demand has leveled off, prices for premiums and deductibles are skyrocketing for a lot of people.
In some states, so some states go up, some states go down.
Other than throwing money at the system, how specifically would Democrats fix that?
Well, there are some ways, and there'd have to be compromises with the Republicans. We would give the state insurance commissioners more authority to limit the price increases.
So why not put out your plan to say here's an alternative?
Because you can't do it if you're going to try to repeal it. Once you repeal it, what are we building on? You can't do it once you repeal it.
Candidate Trump ran on it. You have 11 Senate Democrats up for re-election in 2018 from states where 82% or more of the counties were won by candidate Donald Trump.
When they go home to those very counties, they are now hearing, don't repeal. Candidate Trump ran on repeal without showing what the replacement was. Here's what he said: it'll cost less and cover more people. That is clearly not the Ryan plan.
And so, just to clarify, you say that if Obamacare is left as it is, you do not believe that it will implode and that prices will continue to skyrocket?
I believe that's right. We would be certainly willing to work together to fix it.
Today, after the release last night of President Trump's 2005 tax returns, does that, in your mind, rebut some of the claims, including Secretary Clinton, that he paid no taxes?
The Trump campaign said these numbers are accurate. It's 2 pages of 1 year. The real nub of this is what happened over 10 years. There might have been a year that it was good, but much more importantly, where's he getting all this money from? The key question here is, are there Russian sources? And might those have affected or will affect President Trump? Everyone knows, contrary to Republican beliefs, has been much softer on Putin than traditionally Republican candidates, presidents, senators have been. And the question is why? Everyone should know. When he makes a deal with Russia, whatever it is, you don't want anyone suspecting it's done because he's got hotels there. Here's an example. 7 countries on that list. Saudi Arabia, which had more terrorists come into the U.S., including the ones 15 of the 19, I think, who were involved in the World Trade Center. Saudi Arabia wasn't on the list. Now, there's speculation. I don't know if it's true or not. He didn't put Saudi on the list because he had hotels there.
What they say,
clean.
No, listen, Senator, they say that the visa checking in Saudi Arabia is adequate enough to deal with the visas that they have to bring in. And the 6 countries now don't have that.
Why do more terrorists come in from Saudi than from these countries?
So are you saying that Saudi Arabia should be on the list?
What I am saying is every country ought to be vetted. I think they did a poor job of it in general, okay? So we should tighten up everywhere.
You use words when talking about the Trump administration and President Trump and Russia.
Yes.
You use words collusion and coordination, but what you really mean is conspiracy and aiding and abetting, both of which are crimes. So are you alleging President Trump or his campaign committed a crime?
What I am saying is not that there was a conspiracy. There are enough questionable acts, we saw what happened with Flynn, to have a full and thorough and impartial investigation. Putin, in my opinion, is an evil man. He's a bully. And if there's a potential that there was collusion, people should know about it. I'm not saying there is. I'm saying there ought to be an investigation. The Justice Department should appoint a special prosecutor. The special prosecutor could look into things independently, and you could have the investigation go quietly and alongside.
But you want to get something done.
Absolutely.
With this administration.
Here's what I've said. I said two things to President Trump. First, I said, you ran as a populist against both the Democratic and Republican establishments, as a change agent. But you seem to be governing from the hard right. Most of the appointments are hard right.
You voted against Elaine Chao.
Okay, that's true.
Why would you do that?
Because I said, I am for a big infrastructure bill, but you have to do it with real spending, not tax breaks. And Elaine Chao did not commit to that.
But you're talking, Senator, about policy.
Yeah.
And when you get to the infrastructure policy, you can argue all day about that. But when people are nominated to positions and all of your colleagues don't have any problem with Elaine Chao, why do you vote against her?
I told you why.
I know, because you're arguing policy. You've talked numerous times about this White House, saying, and many Democrats have, calling it chaos.
I have.
But by slow walking the confirmation for these cabinet officers, who you know could be approved at the end easily, isn't that dragging it out? And isn't that contributing to whatever chaos?
These cabinet nominees, every cabinet nominee deserves a full vetting. That's our responsibility. Advise and consent. It doesn't mean rubber stamp. Mitch McConnell wanted them all approved on the first day. But there are three. This cabinet is a little different than others. One, lots of them had huge financial entanglements. The president said he was going to clean the swamp. Well, the cabinet is filled with billionaires, Wall Street people. And third, so many of the cabinet people had different ideas than what the president campaigned on. What are their views?
Don't you think you've hindered President Trump to get his whole cabinet operation?
First of all, President Trump...
In comparison to President Obama and how Senator McConnell and the Republicans dealt with that?
President Obama was far better prepared.
My point is, Elaine Chao didn't have the
problem. Even though I didn't vote for her.
Well, yes, you didn't, and we noted that. What do you think you can get done? What do you think you can negotiate with this president and get across the finish line?
I'll give you one quick, easy example. He called for the elimination of the carried interest loophole, right, where these Wall Street guys pay less taxes than their secretaries, many of them. If he put that on the floor, we'd do it in a minute. Infrastructure I mentioned. If it's real money and can build real new roads, we'd work with the president on it. We would. And here's another one. Trade. My views on trade, I voted against NAFTA back in 1994, even though President Clinton asked me to vote for it, are closer to Trump's than they are to Obama's or Bush's. I'd be willing to work with them on trade, so would the majority of our caucus. They haven't sent us anything on infrastructure. We put out a plan. We've gotten nothing back. He started out on ACA. He knew that would create partisan divisions. If he goes to a huge tax break, 95% of which will go to wealthy people, almost all Democrats are going to oppose him. But there are other things we could work with them.
What about border funding? You voted for the border wall.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't vote for the border wall.
Border security.
I voted for... And
they're going to now come forward with security funding, and there's going to be a request, possibly tomorrow.
Okay. Let's see. A bipartisan bill got the support of a lot of Republicans, called the Schumer-McCain bill. We had much better protection on the wall, on the border, than a wall would be. They haven't submitted it yet. The major basis of it is a wall.
But you're not ruling out funding request on the border.
No. If Donald Trump would look at the bill that Senator McCain and I passed, he might agree with 98% of it. He should look at it.
Let me ask you about your party. Senator Bernie Sanders in New York Times Magazine on the future of the Democratic Party was asked what the party currently stands for. Here's what he said, quote, "You're asking a good question, and I can't give you a definitive answer. Certainly there are some people in the Democratic Party who want to maintain the status quo. They would rather go down with the Titanic so long as they have first-class seats." Here's a guy who won 24 states in the presidential election. He is now a member of your Democratic Senate leadership.
I put him on.
And he can't say what your party stands for.
Well, I don't know when that quote came about.
It's just now.
Bernie and we are working together. He supported our infrastructure bill. He was one of the sponsors of it. Yesterday, we put in a bill for family leave, real good paid family leave. This is part of our Democratic proposals. He's on it. On
So
trade,
is this what the party
Bernie and I
stands
are
for?
working. We stand for a strong economic message aimed at helping the middle class and those trying to get there. We believe that Donald Trump, who campaigned like that, is actually acting as a president for the very wealthy and the special interests. They're doing it on most of their proposals. In 2016, we did not have a sharp, strong economic message aimed at the middle class. We will now.
There is a question inside your caucus about which way it goes.
You bet.
Does it go
It's a
towards
good question.
Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? Does it go more centrist? It seems like it's going that way.
We will, on economic issues, a strong, bold economic plan. We will have Bernie Sanders on board. We will be united on a strong economic message. That is the #1 reason we lost in 2016. We didn't have it. I blame myself and everybody else.
Does Neil Gorsuch get in?
You know, I have some real doubts about Gorsuch. Again, I think he has been a judge who favored the wealthy economic interests over the middle class.
Are you still going to push to stop Neil Gorsuch?
Not a single Democrat has come out for him. Most have not come out against him. I think people are waiting for the hearing.
And so are you worried that the nuclear option is going to be used?
I hope not. You know, listen, we did not adopt the nuclear op. Harry Reid, when he changed the rules, did not do the Supreme Court at my suggestion. I said it's such an important position. I said cabinet too, but he didn't listen to me on that. But it's such an important position that you should get 60 votes whether a Democrat or Republican is in.
You've known Donald Trump for a long time.
Not well, but I've known him.
Yeah, you even recalled how he helped Democrats. So despite the politics and the political evolution, do you observe any differences between the man you knew and the man who is now president that you interact with today?
Yeah, I will tell you this. A lot of his personality traits are the same, whether you like him or not. But as a president and president-elect, he's moved much further to the right than how he campaigned.
Can you negotiate with him?
Certainly, if he recognizes that our values are here, and negotiating doesn't mean we're going to do the switch that he did and move all the way over there.
Senator Schumer, we appreciate the time.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Brett.